Good morning. My name is Chris Kevitt. My pronouns are she and her, and I am so happy to see you all here this morning. Our opening words today come from a ritual and blog post by John Beckett, who is a UU pagan in Denton, Texas. An invitation from Kairounos. To say that we are living in stressful times would be a massive understatement. Socially, financially, politically, environmentally, we struggle to keep our heads above water and still have some time and energy left for those things that are most meaningful to us. In these times, a good spiritual practice is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Our regular prayers, offerings, meditations, and other work form and maintain our sacred relationships. These practices are essential to our ability to live and to live well. We are pagans and we take refuge in nature, not just the wheel of the year and the agricultural cycle, as important as those things are, but also as part of the wild. Unlike what some like to pretend, the wild is not the lone wolf. The wild is the pack, the herd, the flock, the kindred. So take refuge in one another. Take refuge in nature wherever you find it, in a city park or in your backyard. Look at the plant on your kitchen window. Learn from your cat.
I invite our children to come forward for our story if you would like to. I just got to try to stay away from that mic so you don't get the feedback. Okay, I'm going to need someone, maybe a few people to come on over and open our Wonder Box. Maybe I can, would you like to help open the Wonder Box too? Okay. What's in there?
Water and dirt.
Okay, so you want to hold that for us? Okay, hold on to it really good. You want to pick that up? So we have dirt and water. What happens when we put these two things together?
Turns into mud.
Go ahead, pour some in there. We're making mud in church. Can you believe that?
We're making worms home.
Oh, I love that. Can you give it a stir? See if it's getting wet enough. Oh, it needs all of it. Go ahead and just do all of it. Do it. Do it. All right. All right. And it probably could have used more, right?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ask you two to go back to your seat. I'm going to share this story that I've learned, which is about a mud fairy, which is a story called Bloom by Doreen Cronin. Once upon a time, in a beautiful glass kingdom, there lived an unusual fairy named Bloom. Her boots were caked with mud. There was dirt between her teeth. Beetles rested in her wings. Bloom's magic could spin sand into glass, turn weeds into blossoms, and grow a trickle of rainwater into a racing river. Bloom was a helpful creature, but her footsteps, you're gonna do this with me, were heavy and left a trail of cracks and mud wherever she went. My husband says the same thing about me sometimes. As the years passed and the kingdom became larger and shinier, the people cared less about Bloom's magic and only noticed the mess she left behind. They complained about her feet and her muddy fingerprints And Bloom, you know what? She finally had enough. She left without saying goodbye and went to live in the heart of the forest. Both the kingdom and Bloom were extraordinarily happy with the choice she had made. Years and years went by, and the glass kingdom had fallen into a state of disrepair. It was held together by duct tape, glue, and peasants. And the king was reminded of the powerful creature who once lived in the kingdom. The royal court offered to find her, but that king, he declined their help. Surely a creature with such power will only respect a king. Well, very well, your highness, but tread lightly. Fairies are delicate and easily frightened, advised the royal court. The king entered the forest on his swiftest steed, determined to find the creature and save his kingdom. Bloom felt the horse's hoofbeats. Can you make hoofbeats with me? And came to greet the king. I am looking for a magical creature gone so many years ago, he announced. I am here, she answered. Oops, uh-oh. Pause. What's that? Oh, I don't break everything. I'm here, she answered. That king glanced at Bloom with her dirty hair and her clunky shoes. Show me the magic that will save my kingdom, the king ordered. And you know what Bloom did? She placed a bucket of mud at his feet. And he said, "How dare you?" And he dismissed Bloom as a trickster and he rode off. Well, suit yourself, said Bloom, perfectly happy to go back to her own business. When the king returned empty-handed, many days later, the queen, decided she was better suited to find a magical fairy. I must go in your place, she said. And the next day, she entered the forest accompanied by a single guard, and Bloom heard her footsteps and once again stepped out and said, I am here. And the queen said, show me the magic that will save my kingdom. And what do you think Bloom did? Yeah, she put that bucket of mud at her feet, and the queen, oh, how dare you? Don't you know who I am? And so she went off, and Bloom, just happy as could be, skipped off and went back to what she was doing, as fairies do. What of the magical creature? Asked the king upon the queen's return. Broken glass crunched under her feet as she crossed the room. Rain fell from cracks in the ceiling. And the king said, well, she must be frightened to speak with royalty directly. We must send someone ordinary. Genevieve was exactly that. The smallest and the quietest in the kingdom. Her only job was to collect, wash, and dry the queen's exquisite crystal sugar spoon. It was the single object in the kingdom that had not yet cracked. The queen summoned Genevieve to her chambers and explained the dire situation. You are our last hope, she said kindly. I will not fail you, my queen, said Genevieve. She brushed the broken glass out of her hair and packed a small bag and headed for the forest. And Genevieve traveled through the dark woods with nobody accompanying her. And even though she was just by herself, Bloom's delicate ears could hear her little footsteps. And Genevieve said, I am looking for a magical creature who went away so many years ago. And Bloom said, I am here. Have you any magic to save the kingdom? Bloom placed a bucket of mud at the girl's feet. Perhaps if I explain, said Genevieve, you might be able to help a little bit, but our kingdom, it's falling apart. It's made of glass and it's just going to pieces. Bloom placed a shovel at Genevieve's feet. I'm happy to help you with your chores, but perhaps you could show me the magic first. Bloom studied the tiny girl for a moment. She was so delicate, she barely left a footprint behind her when she walked. What is your work in the kingdom? She asked Bloom. Well, I collect and wash and dry the queen's exquisite crystal sugar spoon, she told her. Is that all you can do? Asked Bloom, hoping she didn't sound too harsh. Actually, I'm not sure, said the girl. It's all I'm allowed to do, lest my hands get too dirty or too rough to properly care for the spoon. Why would the king send such a delicate girl with a delicate job deep into the forest to do something they could not? Asked Bloom. Because I'm ordinary, said Genevieve. A dark shadow passed over Bloom's face. She picked up her shovel and took the girl by the hand and said, I will show you the magic that will save your kingdom, said Bloom. And she led the girl into a clearing with a small house, a working fire, and an enormous pit of, what do you think? Mud. She plunged both of her hands into the pit, hurled the brown glob onto the ground, and quickly made a mud pie. Anyone here ever make a mud pie? You try it, said Bloom. Oh, I mustn't, cried Genevieve. I'll never be able to touch the queen's sugar spoon again. Do you wish to save the kingdom, said Bloom. Genevieve did not want to fail the queen. She closed her eyes. She stuck her hands into the bucket and pulled out a scoop of wet, gloppy earth. Nervously, she shook her hands and the mud fell to the ground, splattering everywhere. Not bad, said Bloom with a smile. Genevieve laughed and brushed the splatters off her feet. Now, try again, Bloom encouraged. This time, Genevieve enjoyed the cool, shifting feel of the mud, so different from the delicate spoon. She flung it to the ground exactly as Bloom had. Nicely done, smiling. She shaped a mud pie next. Now, let's make some magic, Bloom said. Genevieve watched Bloom as she shaped the mud pies into a perfect brick. And she pulled back her hair with her muddy fingers, rolled up her sleeves, and tried to do the same. She made a lopsided, lumpy oval brick. You'll get it, said Bloom. Well, after 16 more tries, Genevieve had made a perfect brick. What else can I do? Asked the girl. You'll see, said Bloom. Shovel after shovel, bucket after bucket, she showed Genevieve how to add straw into the mud. That made the bricks even stronger. When the pile of bricks towered over her head, Genevieve was not tired at all, but eager to do more. Bloom showed her how to make mortar by mixing mud with sand. What's that? Genevieve asked. You'll see, Bloom told her. And brick by brick, row by row, wall by wall, the fairy and the girl built a sturdy house in the middle of the forest. I can't believe what we've done. You must go back to the kingdom and share your magic. But how can I bring back a house? What do you think? She can't really bring back a house, can she? You can't, but you can tell the king and queen what you can do. They will never believe that. I'm just an ordinary girl. And how could she do such an extraordinary thing? Genevieve worried. What would I tell them? She asked Bloom. Bloom said, tell them there's no such thing as an ordinary girl. Genevieve returned to the kingdom. Her feet were caked in mud. There was dirt between her teeth, and beetles were resting in her hair. And she knocked on the palace door and shattered it to pieces. I am here. Then an ordinary girl rebuilt a kingdom. And so each and every one of you have those abilities to think out of the box, to get your hands dirty. And so I invite the children to return to their seats and stay with us for the remainder of service if you feel inspired.
Let's take a moment just so you can remember a little bit. All right. Do you remember when you were a child? Think for a minute about one of your favorite childhood memories. Just one. Mhm. Mhm. Now, did it involve being outdoors? Show of hands. Oh, you should see all the hands. Yeah. All right. So I remember being a child. Among my favorite things to do when I was very young was playing in the sandbox and then riding my bike, going to the park to swing. My family liked to fish, so there were lots of times out in a boat on some water somewhere. I spent a lot of time outside. As I grew older, I became more involved with inside things. Our world offers us a lot of distractions and even barriers to being outside. Some of us have little access to the out of doors. So many of us head to nature as a way to escape our daily lives. You know, people go on vacation, they want to get out. Now, I spend very little time outside, even on a good day, on a beautiful day. We have this lovely screened-in porch on the back of our house, and friends and visitors often say, I bet you spend a lot of time out here. And I think to myself, no, well, not so much. I could, but I don't really. And then I think, I wonder why that is. And then I kind of forget about it and I stay inside. So, how can I change that? There is an abundance of research that tells us that being outside, being in nature is good for us. How can I give myself that gift? Making a small step is often the best way to make any change. You never know the overall effect of your tiny ripple, your little drop in the bucket, your small contribution, your small shift. So I was inside when I started to write this reflection. Outside was a beautiful day. It was a little cool, but it was sunny. It was gorgeous. Well, it was very apparent what I needed to do. Just a small shift was needed, and it was easy. I put on a jacket, I took my laptop, and I sat on the porch. I listened to the chirping of the birds, the singing. I listened to the chattering of all those squirrels that run around. I listened to the laughter of my neighbors' children as they were playing outside. I felt the breeze. I was blessed to see this beautiful clump of yellow tulips and all the violets that grow in our yard. This is a place I like to be. The next time a friend inquires about my use of the porch, not their business, but, good conversation, I think I will be agreeing. Yes, I spend time out here. So our first reading today is called We Need to Teach the Children the Old Words by Caroline Miller. We need to teach the children the old words, words like brabble and grubble, twitterlight and clinkerbell, words which dance and trip and slip and drip like honey off the tongue. Teach them that a hazy halo of cloud around the moon is called a moonbrach, and that swiftly moving clouds are named Caries. How a vixen's wedding is a sunny shower of rain, and that a single sunbeam breaking through thick cloud is known as a messenger. Teach them to know the seasons and the sense of Queen of the Meadow and Bride of the Sun, how to tell Jupiter's staff from fairy fingers, and which roses bloom with the strawberry moon. Teach them to spot pricklebacks in the tottle grass, how to recognize a Smoes or a Bishop Barnaby, and when to watch the sky for flittermice and yaffles, and to pay attention to the Dumbledore and the mouse arnicle as she grazes the lazy leas of summer. Teach them a few of the old Sussex words for mud, like grubber and slub and stodge and hug, so that they know that the precious soil beneath their toes is anything but worthless dirt. Teach them to be users and keepers and makers of the words which bring the land alive, a storybook where everything has its rightful place, including us, where the wilds are fearful and filled with magic, and people do noble things, and nothing is impossible. In this world of harsh new words, words like planetary dysmorphia and solastalgia and extinction debt and grief mitigation, mega drought, mega fire, anthropogenic pyrocene, words which alarm and get stuck in our throats, describing a world which our hearts cannot grasp. We need to teach the children the old words so that if they should feel lost, the old world words might color for them a warm and breathing living map, a light to guide them safely home.
One of our sources as Unitarian Universalists is to draw from earth-centered traditions. And so today, Chris and I have a Earth Day prayer in the spirit of Indigenous traditions. Infinite Spirit, sometimes called grandfather, grandmother, Father Sky, Earth Mother, Creator, we gather to praise your creation, to honor the swimmers and the crawlers, the four-leggeds and the winged ones. We give thanks for the beauty and glory of creation and open our hearts to new ways to understand our place in the universe, not the center or focus, but a humble and balanced place where every step we take becomes a prayer, where every word we say makes harmony with the vast, vibrating cosmos, and where we know we are singing the song of life.
We pray to know more deeply that we are in the garden where every plant and animal and speck of dust is a living prayer, Without our siblings of the plant and animal and mineral kingdoms, the human family would end. So we want to bless them as they bless us.
We pray for humility, not to humble ourselves before presidents or priests, but before the ants and the trees. For if we cannot be in true relation to the ant, we shall be outcasts of the garden. Let us cast the pollution from our eyes so we can see the glory and live with thanksgiving.
Great Spirit, let us remember it is not how we talk, but how we walk. When we say we love animals, let us protect them. When we say that we love the plant people, let us honor them by living lightly on the earth. When we say we love the minerals, let us use them only in necessity and remember their rightful places. Oil belongs in the ground, not in the air through our wasteful machines. Wondrous trees breathing life into the atmosphere, your gifts of fire and shelter, fruit and sailing are precious to us. And in many ways, you offer us leaves of knowledge.
May the vision of mutual interrelatedness, cosmic interdependence, the seamless process of generations not end in cough-filled skies blotting the sun, but rather may clear air, healthy forests, wholesome water, expansive prairie, and pungent earth nourish paths for all creatures. Through mountain and valley and the salt sea, and through a protective atmosphere, as we rejoice in the inhabitants. Hear and empower our mantra: reduce, reuse, recycle, replenish. With thanks for the surprise and mystery of it all, we pray in the name of the Creator, the processes and presences, and all our relations. Well, I'm glad that someone brought up the eclipse. It was magical, was it not? One of the most amazing things, I was thinking about it, and I've shared with a few of you, so I apologize if you're hearing this a second time. First of all, I was here with about 10 or 15 other people. And let me say, I understand why towns used to have criers, because one of our friends, who's only 5 years old, ran about to make sure that everybody didn't miss it. It's starting, they said with such enthusiasm. And it broke the adults from being engaged in conversation and doing stuff. They wanted to see it. They didn't want to miss it. So they heeded that call. And sometimes children can do that for us. Sometimes it's our inner child. Sometimes it's kids we know and see. But what was also amazing to me is afterwards, how much I heard from people. I heard words spiritual, magical, breathtaking, made me weep. And it got me thinking, what about the container that made that possible, right? It brought me back. Do you remember way back, like the beginning of the pandemic, when kind of that shelter in place happened and they told us all, stay home. Your bosses agreed, right? Stay home. and everybody leaned into it with a little bit of liberation, right? Like, yes, we can jump off the hamster wheel and we're going to make sourdough and take walks and go outside. And so what I realized was that same energy was there, but without the threat of a pandemic, right? It told everybody shelter in place, stay put. And people use that differently than in the pandemic as an opportunity to come together and engage with each other, right? For friends to visit. And so it kind of felt a little bit like that shelter in place energy, but then also a little bit like a long holiday weekend, right? Kids have off school on Monday, right? And what was magical about it? Well, there wasn't all the stress of holidays. You didn't have to clean your house because the show was outside. You didn't have to cook the right things. I mean, albeit I bought Pop Rocks and some Oreos so we could make phases of the moon and play with our food. And I bought moon pies and sun chips because I love a theme. But it really invited us to get outside, to notice things. And it made me think, how did we get here to where we need explicit permission to spend the day outside, to look up, to experiment with light and shadows? Anybody else look at your shadow and see if it got sharper? Anybody looking through colanders to see how it affected the light? And it made what? Did anybody see it? It made little crescent moons, right? And the dappling in the trees. And so then I remember some of us were walking around and listening to the birds and the sounds because we wanted to notice when it changed. So that intention that we had. So it made me think, how can we bring that intention to our daily life? And some of you may have known I was at a play conference 2 weeks ago. And not that they have to sell me on play, but thinking about how to bring it back to you, lovely people. And one of the things we were talking about is the nature deficit that's going on right now, how much we are sedentary, how we sit inside, how we're disconnected from each other by space and time. We're disconnected from our environment around us, as Chris mentioned earlier. And one of the prescriptions, so to speak, is to get 1,000 hours outside. Anyone else feel daunted and overwhelmed by that task? Okay. Now, what if I said 15 to 20 minutes a day? Does that feel more doable? You will exceed that if you're outside 20 minutes a day. So 5-minute breaks. 5-minute breaks. Okay, I might be wrong on the math. Missy will fix me. But if you take that small portion, it is a small portion every day. If you get outside a small portion every day, you can combat that. You can be connected. And when we are connected to these things, we get attached, don't we? We feel like they're worth fighting for. We feel like they're worth doing. They're worth advocating for. Did you also know that when you get outside and you get your hands in the dirt, that those microbes, and what are some of those microbes, people? Kids, you can say the word. What is it? Like earthworms move in the dirt, and what happens? Brittany, I know you got me. It's poop. Okay. There's poop and like living things that break down in the dirt, right? And those living things, do you know what? They're good for us. Do you know they help release serotonin? They help us feel happier to get our hands in the dirt. Like, I'm proud to report yesterday, I spent a couple hours here with some of you, and the number of times in my small working group, we were like, look at that earthworm. Isn't it beautiful? It's juicy and just doing its job. And wow, like marveling at earthworms. When's the last time you marveled at an earthworm? Maybe put that on your to-do list in the next week or two. Like, they're pretty cool. So when we think of that soil, we think about all those different things that come together to make it, things that came before us, things that'll come after us, things that are here now, and how that soil can nurture us, how it can help us grow and thrive. And so we're going to invite you all. Hopefully, some of you brought some dirt to share. If you did not bring dirt to share, do not worry. There is some dirt here that you can put into this pot. And the kids next week are going to vote on what we're going to plant. And then we will add some things, probably things like lavender and citronella that help our pollinator friends, but also help us exist outside because they kind of keep biting insects away, which is nice. And we can find balance and harmony as we engage together and in this community. So I invite you to come forward and bring your dirt up if you've brought some. I hear like laughter and joy, that was fun. And kind of just like our water, we need all these elements, earth, air, wind, fire, they benefit all of us. This is A Blessing of the Dirt by my friend and mentor, Joy Berry. In the knowledge that we are all of us imperfect, but come together in communities of grace, we bless this dirt. In the belief that we humans share an origin and common destiny, we bless this dirt. In a sustaining faith in human redemption and growth, we bless this dirt. In the wisdom of science that tells us dirt is an important part of our own health and happiness, we bless this dirt. In understanding that all living creatures are connected and have a right to healthy soil, we bless this dirt. In hopes that we all continue to grow together in mind, body, and spirit, we bless this dirt. Chris and I have a responsive reading. If you feel inclined to join hands with your neighbor, you are welcome to, but you do not have to, because we're talking about connection like the tree's roots underground. This is a prayer of healing. Oh, no, it's not. That's why. Thank you for coming up with me. A prayer for healing from Prayers of the People. The UN Environmental Sabbath Service, Earth Day 1990. When we go like this, you'll say those words. Should we practice real quick? Join with the earth and with each other. Okay. To bring new life to the land, to restore the waters, to refresh the air.
We join with the earth and with each other.
To renew the forest, to care for the plants, to protect the creatures.
We join with the earth and with each other.
To celebrate the seas, to rejoice in the sunlight, to sing the song of the stars. We join with the earth and each other. To recall our destiny, to renew our spirits, to reinvigorate our bodies.
We join with the earth and with each other.
To recreate the human community, to promote justice and peace, to remember our children.
We join with the earth and with each other.
We join together as many and diverse expressions of one loving mystery for the healing of the earth and the renewal of all life.
We join with the earth and each other.
Thank you.